are born. Resistance is futile. Your life, as it has been, is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No! We will not service Washington.
Mr. Worf, fire.
Well, welcome to another exciting edition of the Renegade and the Rambler show. I am the Renegade, Dan Bailey, and we got a special guest, Jeff.
Good evening.
Say good evening.
Good evening.
All right, you good now?
I want to be here for the whole
You want to be here for the whole thing? Okay. But don't think you'll be able to hear anything, but anyway, so my daughter's on. Say hi.
Hello again.
All right. So it's been quite a bit here, Jeff. So how you been over the last couple weeks?
Oh, I just started a new job at work, and so my schedule just changed. I'll be able to do about 4 weekends every 6 weeks. I'm pretty sure that's about how it's going to end up. Maybe it's I don't know. I can't even figure it out. Anyway, yeah, this weekend and next weekend I am days, so I will be able to do shows. And then the following weekend, I'm sure I won't be able to do a show. So in the next 3 weeks, I'll have 2 weekends I can. 1 weekend I can't. Then I'll have 2 weekends I can again. So it's just it's a strange schedule that I run.
That sounds like my schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it is good to be back on the radio again tonight with you. I really enjoy a time when I have someone else with me. It makes the hour go much better. And I just don't have to ramble as much. It makes it much easier for me.
Oh, yes. It makes it easier for me, too, because nobody wants to hear me talk for an hour.
Well, it's interesting. Everyone out there that is listening, I did make a little change with our SoundCloud. So now I am in the process of working on getting almost every show that I have on my computers onto SoundCloud, so you can listen to all the old shows right there. I haven't figured out yet how to make it so you can download them. Maybe, Daniel, you know how to do that, but I can't find where I add that button to the options.
Okay, I'll take a look when we get off the air.
So we are on SoundCloud now. At this point, I think there's about maybe 10 Wasatch reports. There might be 2 or 3 paradigm shifts there. And there's an older show. I'm not quite sure. It's really old. It's from well over a year ago. Excuse me. So go to SoundCloud, look us up. And that's the other thing that's really weird. I don't know. I shared it to our Facebook page and to our MeWe page. I did try to do a search. I put Cerberus Radio Network in the search bar, and it won't even pick us up. I can't find us by searching for it. So I'm not quite sure how that gets fixed as well. But there are some things to work out with this, but we are in the process of doing that. And one thing is nice. I have found out that I have a lot of idiosyncrasies on the radio, and I am going to try to work on them. I'm consciously thinking about them right now. I was able to edit those out of most of my shows, and I cleaned them up very well. They are great podcasts. Most of them are about 40 minutes long now, the ones I have on there, and they really do flow nicely. Matter of fact, if you listen to the March 29th one, that was one of my favorite shows that I've done. So if you get a chance to listen to that, folks, go there and listen to that. And we will be getting other shows on there. We have unlimited space now, so we can put them all there. That was a big concern. I wanted to make these available outside of YouTube. So now it's there. So what's going on with you there at the Bailey house there, Daniel?
Oh, not too much. Just staying out of the management's way because they seem to be on a firing kick here lately. So we got the the feds are coming to town on Monday. So be on your best behavior type deal.
There you go. So what did you want to talk about tonight, Daniel? I'll start off with that and see where you want to go. I have something I want to do. I have a media file to do. I'm going to back up. I am going to do one thing first. This is a media file, and it is from a movie, and it'll make sense after I play it. Oh, I'm turned too low or something. Let's make sure I have everything turned up. There we go, because it wasn't coming through very loudly. Did you hear it, Daniel?
Just barely.
Okay, let's see if I got this now. All right, let's try it again. Hopefully it works. That is a clip from Full Metal Jacket, and that was Arlie Ermy. And Arlie Ermy, the gunny, passed away today. And I just wanted to say it was fun watching you over the years there, Arlie Ermy, and we will miss you. The gunny was quite the character. He had some great shows on the History Channel, and he was in some movies. Yeah, he was a very enjoyable man, and I enjoyed watching him on television. And he did pass away today. So rest in peace, Mr. Ermy. So anyway, now, Daniel, now they got that out of the way because that was the one thing I had that I wanted to do tonight. Was there anything in particular you want to talk about? Because I do have some media files on one thing I want to talk about, but we can start off with something that might be on your mind. So what do you have?
Oh, there's several things on my mind there. We got the bombing over in Syria, which should not have gone on. Well, let's see. What else? No, pretty much. I think it was just the bombing. I'm sure something will come up.
All right. So I do have an article on that. It's from the 10th Amendment Center. It is Mike Mahari. So I do have an article on that. We're going to get to that in a minute. So why don't we start here then? This all came about by a post of our good friend, Suzanne Sherman. I hope Suzanne's listening. She posted on her Facebook page a meme that she made up here, and thank you. There it is for you. I said it just for you there, Suzanne. A meme, and it created a firestorm. I mean, people were losing their minds over it. And this is what she said. For everyone saying Trump is better than Hillary, at least Hillary was honest regarding her intentions. What does that mean to you, Dave? Since I don't know that you even commented on that or even knew anything about that. What does that mean to you? For everyone saying Trump is better than Hillary, at least Hillary was honest regarding her intentions.
Well, at least it means we knew Hillary was a globalist. She was very clear about it. We knew she was going to try and ban guns any way she could. We knew she was going to promote abortion any way she could. We knew that she had no problem starting wars anywhere in the world at any given moment. Basically, she was upfront about what she planned to do.
Okay, that's exactly what the intent of that's the exact intent of that meme. That's exactly what Suzanne was intending for people to take away from it. People were losing their mind. Hillary is the most dishonest person in the world. That's all they could see. You say something about Trump, and everyone was losing their minds to the point where I actually started to get really, really, really testy with people, and I finally just turned off notifications for that because I'm done with it. I could not put up with the idiocy. If you put a scene from Idiocracy on, it was those people responding to that meme of Suzanne's. It was Idiocracy at its greatest. So here we go. I'm gonna play a little montage. It's only 3 things. I was looking for the 4th. You mentioned it, but I couldn't. I just didn't have time. I got home from work. I started putting this together. So here we go. I'm gonna play this one. I hope this one is a little bit louder than the last one. Let me turn everything up again and see if it comes off a little bit better.
Mr. Trump, this is Paul Morris. Barcet, auctioneer, lifelong Republican, big supporter of yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
How you doing, Mr. Trump? My wife Beth and I own Regal Auction in Franklin, New Hampshire. One of the auctions we do is gun auctions. We're doing one on November 21st. So I have my finger on the pulse of gun owners in New Hampshire and elsewhere in the country. What all us gun owners are wondering is if there's any more regulations on a bill that reaches President Trump's desk, will you pledge now to veto that?
Well, the biggest problem I have with Planned Parenthood is the abortion situation.
He said
It's
yes.
like an abortion
It got knocked
factory,
off when I added this.
And you can't have it, and you just shouldn't be funding it. And well, the biggest problem I have with Planned Parenthood is the abortion situation. I mean, it's like an abortion factory, frankly, and you can't have it, and you just shouldn't be funding it, and that should not be funded by the government. And I feel strongly about that.
And that's the issue of abortion. Right. Mr. Trump, you're pro-life, but I want to ask you specifically, do you want the court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact, states a woman's right to abortion?
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that that will go back to the individual states.
All right. So on the first one, it said at the end of that, after that guy asked the questions about if gun regulation came before you, would you veto it? And he said yes. That was where that ended, but it got cut off in there. Then he said that he would defund Planned Parenthood. This is all his candidate. And then he went on to say he's pro-life and he blah, blah, blah. Who cares about the Supreme Court anyway? President Trump lied as candidate Trump to get the votes. He told us what he knew we wanted to hear about gun rights, quote unquote. He told us what he knew we wanted to hear about Planned Parenthood and abortion. And I didn't have time to get it. I was looking for the non-intervention speeches that he gave as a candidate. I just couldn't listen to full speeches to pull out that soundbite. I didn't have 50 minutes to listen to a whole speech to get the one soundbite I was looking for. But he did talk about non-interventionism. He promised non-interventionism, and he lied about that as well. There was one other thing. It doesn't matter. So as candidate Trump, he was telling us one thing, and as president, he signed the omnibus bill that has gun control in it. I played that clip from Massey. He told you exactly what page it's on in that clip. You can listen to my 329-18, the paradigm shift, and you'll hear that page number, and you can go look it up if you want to find out for sure that it's there. So he signed that. When he didn't veto that bill, he went back on that promise, that guy, that he would not allow gun control to go through. He would veto it. It funded again for another 9 months Planned Parenthood to the tune of $500 million, $500 million to kill more babies. And we had the prime example just the other day of Syria. He dropped a bunch of missiles on Syria without congressional approval. And what did he say to Obama when Obama, a couple years ago, when Obama wanted to start bombing Syria? What was all the Twitter and the tweets and everything coming from then candidate Trump? Or actually, those were before he was even a candidate. What was he saying? Do you remember those, Daniel?
Oh, yes. Along the lines of, I don't know if he used the word illegal, but that he would need congressional approval for it. And it was totally unadvised. And we had no business there. And we should not get involved in another country's issues. We're still cleaning up the last two countries we got into. And there's no shortage of words with Trump.
Right. So, during the day today, not during the day, during this evening, getting ready for the show, I found a tweet by a guy. He has some stats here. Democrats that support Trump's serious strikes, Democrats, about 37% support Trump in his strikes. Those same the Democrats that support Trump now at 38% or 37%, when Obama wanted to do it, Democrats, only 38% supported Obama bombing Syria. So they really are very consistent on that. Now, the Republicans, on the other hand, when Obama wanted to shoot missiles at Syria, and the Republicans were losing their minds, saying that he needed congressional approval to do so, 22% of Republicans supported Obama unilaterally dropping munitions in Syria. You ready for the number of Republicans that support Trump doing it?
Oh, probably like 95%.
86%.
That sounds about right.
So 86%. So we're talking 20 or 64% of those people are absolute hypocrites. And that's where I ended up this whole discussion with Suzanne's on that meme of Suzanne's, was that these people are the height of hypocrisy. They railed against Obama dropping bombs or missiles or anything in Syria. Matter of fact, if you remember, there were a lot of Republicans that were against boots on the ground. Remember all that boots on the ground crap we heard forever about Syria?
Yeah. Yeah. We won't have boots on the ground. We're not getting involved.
Yeah. So now today we have a lot of guys. We have a lot of boots on the ground in Syria. Just the other day, unilaterally, Trump and France and Britain dropped ordnance on Damascus, the capital of Syria. There was no congressional hearings. There were no debates about a declaration of war. Congress did not authorize use of force, an AUMF, against Syria. I keep hearing that. And that one's driving me crazy. Hey, Daniel, is that one driving you crazy, this whole AUMF thing?
Oh, the authorization for military force.
The authorization to use military force. AUMF.
When was the last time it was renewed? I don't think it was, but it's ridiculous that we're still using the original bill from
2001.
Was it
that latest? Would be 2002.
Well, they did renew one of them, but I think that was the Patriot Act they renewed.
Yeah, the AUMF, I believe, has. I don't know if it's been renewed. It doesn't matter. It's still unconstitutional. If they want to declare war, they need to declare war against the state. And AUMF, and this AUMF specifically, is so vague. I believe it's against terrorists, if I'm not mistaken. So, what country is a terrorist? What country is terrorist?
Well, and here's the other problem with it. It was so broad in saying terrorist that didn't define the group that they could say that we're terrorists and thereby declare war on the uncitizenry.
Well, they wouldn't declare war. They would just start bombing us. And he could do that. That's my whole point of this. It's so vague, and this makes it, that's why this is so unconstitutional. Because, in fact, Trump could say that the people in South Africa that are killing white farmers are terrorists, and he can start bombing them under the AUMF. Why isn't he? They're killing kids and women and children. Why aren't they there? Why aren't they bombing them? Why aren't they bombing the Russians in the Ukraine? They can be considered terrorists. They're terrorizing people. They're killing women and children. Why aren't they bombing them? Why aren't they? Here we go. Why is Trump not bombing Kim Jong-un? He's killing women and children. He's a monster threat. He actually is a threat to this continental landmass with his ICBMs that he's developing. Why isn't he bombing him? This is the lunacy of this whole AUMF.
He's not bombing North Korea because he doesn't want to upset China. He's trying to start a trade war with them. He doesn't want to start an actual war.
Yeah. Well, last time we tried imposing tariffs and trade sanctions on somebody, we ended up in a world war. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor because we were cutting them off the steel, oil, and all these other natural resources that they needed just for their society to function. And we ended up in a world war. So trade wars aren't the safest route to go either. Anyway, so we have all these people that keep quoting an AUMF. Well, then there is no country in the world that right now we shouldn't be bombing, because there's somebody there that is doing something that our administration won't like. I just asked on a post on Facebook just a few minutes ago, who's going to start bombing us for the Holocaust of the millions of murdered babies here?
You would think somebody would.
I mean, maybe Poland will send planes over here and start bombing us for killing millions and millions of babies.
After all, it's all about the children.
That's right. So, and all you war hawks out there, if somebody did bomb us and start bombing Planned Parenthoods around the United States because they're murdering babies, would you be, we better not retaliate? Oh, it's just, it's their right. No, you'd be crying bloody murder for us to be launching missiles at them, destroying them. Yet we can bomb dozens and dozens of countries around the world, and then we sit back and go, well, it's our God-given right. We have to make the world safe for democracy. We have to make the world safe for whatever the heck it is. American exceptionalism. This is lunacy, absolute lunacy.
I'm still trying to figure out. He said that, or President Trump said that the reason we needed to bomb Syria was because they used chemical weapons, which on Thursday, General Mattis said there was no evidence of, but then miraculously by Saturday, he had been, quote, fully convinced. I don't know. It sounds seriously like somebody told him you're going to go along with this narrative, whether you think it's good or not. But that's beside the point. But he said it's because he was protecting U.S. troops in Syria. Okay. First question. Why do we have troops in a foreign country that we're not, quote, at war with? And why do we have troops in a country that has allied with Russia and Iran, who we've all but declared our enemies? Why would you then? Okay, and then he said American interests. Okay, we've been at, quote. We mentioned Syria as a was it axis of terrorism or axis of evil, I think is what George Bush did back in 2001. We've had no dealings with Syria since 2001. What possible interest do we still have in Syria if we haven't done business with them since 2001? This is lunacy. His reasoning's lunacy, but the Trumpites will take whatever he says as gospel, and somehow he's playing a game of 4G chess or 4D chess that none of us can understand.
Right. Well, that was the whole point with Suzanne earlier today. Was we finally just gave up because it was a no-win situation. No matter how hard you tried to explain that, at least Hillary was honest in her campaign. She told us exactly what she believed and was going to do. Trump told us what he knew we needed to say to get elected about gun control, which was in the omnibus, about Planned Parenthood, about Obamacare, and about foreign intervention. He told us everything that he knew we wanted to hear, and then he broke every one of those promises. He lied to us, and then he went and did those things he said he would never do anyway. So getting back a little bit to the AUMF and the war powers, because those two keep coming up on this. Under the war powers, the president has the ability to basically defend us if we are under an imminent threat. So I asked a number of times and never got an answer, because I gave the answer. What threat does Syria pose these United States? The citizens on this landmass?
Hey, I can give you an answer. Zero. Nada. Nothing. They don't have any means of getting anything over here. They can't attack us. We hold all the cards.
They have little or no navy. I mean, it is minimal. They just about have no navy. Their air force is minuscule. And the only thing that's really flying over their country is Russians and Americans. They have no ICBMs, so they're not threatening this landmass. Like I said, if there's a threat against this landmass, it's North Korea. Why aren't we bombing them? If it's such an imminent thing, they have no ICBMs. They have no air force. They have no navy. They pose no threat to the citizens on this landmass. So even if we could agree that the War Powers Act and the AUMF are constitutional, which they are not. Even if we could agree to that, Syria poses no threat to us here. Therefore, he can't use those as a justification to use force over there without congressional approval. He needed congressional approval, just as the people back when Obama wanted to do it knew that he needed congressional approval. Trump needs congressional approval today. He didn't get it. He acted illegally. It was unconstitutional. And that's the end of the story. But the Trump flakes will not listen to that because they've drunk the Kool-Aid. Any more thoughts on that, Daniel?
Do you remember when the U.S. decided, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but do you remember Vietnam and Korea?
Korea, definitely not.
Okay.
I was not even born.
I didn't think you were that old yet. But Vietnam, remember Vietnam? They were trying to tell, China was trying to tell us, don't get involved. It's none of your business. We're not going to.
I was just a baby during, and probably in elementary school during most of Korea. So, Vietnam. So I really didn't pay attention to that. So I don't know that, but I'm sure it's there.
According to the history books, China made it very clear we should not be involved, that they didn't want us on their border because they were communists. They had just converted from, I'm not sure what they were after World War II to communism. And they made it very clear because of our policy against communism, they did not want us on their border. That's why they involved themselves in Korea, and that's why they involved themselves in Vietnam. Russia has told us to stay out of Syria. Leave Syria to them. Iran has basically told us they don't want us in Syria, which we don't listen to anything Iran says anyway. But anyway, Russia is an actual nuclear power, though. Why are we making somebody that doesn't have to be our enemy mad? And what I think is going on is they're trying to turn Syria into a proxy war, which means we have these little skirmishes inside a country that's not attached to anybody that's actually the major players. And if this all blows up in our face, the big boys just go home and, shake hands and go home, while the poor little country that was used for the proxy war has to clean up the mess.
Well, the other thing that I think kind of gets past quite a few people. Someone asked on another thread, why are we there? And I said one word: oil. There's oil there too. That is part of the reason why Russia's there, because they want a pipeline there. This oil is very important. It's strategic to Russia. It's strategic to us in the fact that we want to keep them from producing a lot so that they can't affect the prices of oil around the world.
Yeah, because Saudi
oil again.
Because Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Kuwait and all them want to build a pipeline there through Turkey to get to Europe. Right now, Europe is fueled by Russian oil. Russia doesn't want to give up their foothold, and Syria doesn't want a pipeline coming through that they don't have ownership of, or something along that lines. So Russia allied themselves with Syria because it was a win-win for them, and they've always been buddies, basically. It's in both their interest to stop a pipeline coming up through Syria to get to Europe.
Yeah, the other thing that with Russia, Syria is on the Mediterranean, and that is the major base for the Russian Navy in the Mediterranean. They've had a treaty with them for decades. They've kept ships there forever, just about, not quite ever, but you understand what I mean. It is strategic to Russia. It is a military foothold for them, and it does stop this pipeline that would be against their interest in Europe. So it's about oil yet again. We're going to have kids and our brothers, sisters, daughters killed over there over oil yet again to protect the Saudis, the Kuwaitis, and the big corporations here in the United States. So I'm gonna get into this article real quick. I don't know, or did you want to take a break? What did you want to do?
Go ahead and get into the article, boss.
All right.
We can take a break, but if you're on a roll, go with it.
Okay, this is from Mike Mahary. It's not a new article. He just reposted it. This is from the 10th Amendment Center. It's from Michael Mahary. He was Suzanne's guest just the other day. It was posted on July 7, 2014, and it's called Constitution 101, War Powers. Let's see. I don't want to read the whole thing. So why don't I skip I'll start off at the beginning. Over the last several weeks, we've looked at the general welfare, necessary and proper, and commerce clauses, 3 constitutional provisions often used by progressives to expand federal power. And we established what those clauses actually mean. While liberal constitutional interpreters abuse those clauses, scholars and politicians have utterly disregarded the proper understanding of war powers. This should cause Americans a great deal of concern because, as James Madison pointed out, war poses the greatest threat to personal liberties. Quote, of all the enemies to public liberty, war is perhaps the most to be dreaded because it comprises and develops the germ of every other. War is the parent of armies. From these proceed debts and taxes, and armies and debts and taxes are the known instruments for bringing the many under the dominion of the few. In war, too, the discretionary power of the executive is extended. Its influence in dealing out offices, honors, and emoluments is multiplied. And all the means of seducing the mind are added to those of subduing the force of the people. The same malignant aspect in republicanism may be traced in the inequality of fortunes and the opportunities of fraud growing out of the state of war, and in the degeneracy of manners and of morals engendered by both. No nation could preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare. Well, I should stop there. James Madison said it all. We have a continual my goodness. We have continual warfare. We have high taxes to pay for all this warfare. I mean, Daniel, help me out here. I mean, this is...
Yeah, it's... I don't know. I think it's just a play to get the military class richer.
Well,
the
military industrial complex is going to get very rich over these big wars.
Yeah, I think all it is. Apparently, to make America great again, we have to make sure Boeing, Lockheed Martin,
Raytheon,
that they have plenty of bombs they need to replace in our arsenal. So that I don't understand what our fascination is with killing innocent people. I honestly do not. If we had an actual enemy, I would understand it, but We don't have any enemies here. We're just bombing people. We're bombing innocent people while we butcher our innocent people at an abortuarium.
Well, let's continue on with Mike Meharry's post here. While scholars try to make constitutional war powers a complex issue shrouded in mystery, they prove quite simple in reality. Article 1, Section 8 delegates Congress the power to, quote, declare war, unquote. Article 2, Section 2 designates the president, quote, Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States, unquote. These two roles stand separate and distinct from one another. Congress makes the decision to enter into war. The president then has the authority to prosecute the war within the limits Congress places on him. Yet we don't have that anymore. We have Congress passing an amendment to the Constitution by legislation, transferring the power to declare war and to prosecute war to the executive. So why do we even have a legislature anymore if he's going to declare the war, he's going to prosecute the war? Now Trump's talking about raising tariffs on his own, so he's going to tax, even though that's the legislature's duty. Why do we even have a legislature? We might as well just have a dictator. We have one. We have an elected king. He acts as the King of England did. And we have the judges. Heck, we got an oligarchy. They rule over this 320 million of us in their black dresses from a big cathedral in Washington, D.C., an edifice to be worshipped.
Yeah, we worship the god of the military. It's ridiculous.
The designation of commander-in-chief does not delegate the president any power to take America into war or to initiate any offensive military expeditions. Note that even after the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt still needed a declaration of war to initiate further action against the Japanese.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. They say that, quote, you can't do that because it would take the president too long to act. But didn't Roosevelt in World War II get a declaration of war on his desk within, I believe it was 3 days after going to Congress?
It was very quickly. The fact of the matter is, the Constitution isn't a death pact, or isn't a suicide pact. If, let's see, who can we use? Let's use China. If China decided they were going to fly an armada of planes over here full of paratroopers and they were going to attack the United States, they're going to put troops on the ground here, and they were going to conquer us, the president wouldn't have to sit back and go to Congress and get a declaration of war to stop the imminent threat on these United States. He would have to sit and wait for them to get here to have to then kill them. He could neutralize the threat. But to go beyond that, he would need a declaration of war. So they're flying over, and our jets come over, they go down in the ocean. Now Trump wants to send our armada over there and attack China. No, he can't do that. He's got to go to Congress and stand there and pound on the podium a while and tell them we need a declaration of war. They're all going to argue over it for a day or two. They're going to vote, and they're going to say, yes, go kill them all. That's the difference. It's not a suicide pact. No president has to sit there and watch for the invasion fleet to get here and invade us before they can do anything. If they saw them coming, they could respond. But to go and do offensive operations against those people after the fact, you need a declaration of war. If Trump believed that Syria was such a great threat to this continental landmass, he should have gone to Congress, presented the evidence, and then got the declaration of war. Then he could have bombed them. but he didn't. He did exactly what Obama wanted to do back then. Thoughts on that, Daniel?
If Trump wanted a defensive war, an actual quote legal war, he has just cause on the southern border to stop the flow. He can't go past the border without a declaration of war, but he has the right to deploy the military to stop the flow of illegals across the border. Unless I'm misreading something, is that how you read the invasion clauses?
Okay, now the southern border thing. Let's talk about that too for a little bit, because Trump wanted to go put a bunch of what are they? National Guard. He wanted the National Guard put on the border to protect our southern border. Could he do that? Okay, let's turn back the Wayback Machine and ask the question a different way. When George Washington sent troops into Pennsylvania to put down the Whiskey Rebellion, could he do that?
After Pennsylvania declared an official rebellion in a state of emergency, he could have. I mean, he didn't wait, but
if the legislature or the governor of Pennsylvania, after the legislature passed a resolution, said, we got to get help from the federal government, and they contacted George Washington and said, we have a rebellion here. We can't put it down. We need your help. Then they could have marched their little troops in and taken care of the rebellion. Absent that, he committed an act that was against the Constitution. It was blatantly unconstitutional. It was an illegal act. He sent troops in to a sovereign state, a nation, without them being requested.
Yeah,
fast forward to 2018. Can he send troops to the southern border in Texas, minus Texas requesting them?
I'm going to say no, but wouldn't that classify as a foreign entity invading the country versus a rebellion inside of a state?
Yes, but look at the Constitution. What does it say?
You're frozen, Jeff. Did we lose you, Jeff? Okay, looks like Jeff is fully frozen. I do not have a pocket constitution here. I really should. Yeah, I believe the Constitution says along the lines of I'd have to actually pull it up to be sure. Bear with me for 1 second here, and I will pull it up. And we lost Jeff. All right, but I will screenshot this, and then I will read the pertinent information to you so that we can all be on the same page here. All right. There is Article 1, Section 1, Section 2. Let's get down to the Section 5. Okay, Section 2, or not Section 2, Article 2, which covers the executive U.S. Constitution. Section 1, number 1. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years. States shall appoint number of electors. Electors shall meet in their respective states. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors. No person except a natural born citizen. Let's see, in cases of removal. Okay, here, Section 2. Number 1, the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. when called into the actual service of the United States, which means he would actually have to have Congress call him into service. He can't just declare himself in service. He may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to their duties of their respective offices, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He can't pardon himself, in other words. Let's see. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate. And the power shall have the power to, or the president shall have the power to fill up vacancies. So he's only commander in chief according to Article 2, Section 2, when called into service. And then he becomes the commander in chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and the militia of the several states. Now, let's see. Section 3, Section 4, they don't apply to this. Article 3 is the judiciary. Article 4 is states' relations. I'm just scanning over this to see where exactly we can find. Okay, so according to Article 2, Section 2, he can only command the military on U.S. or foreign soil when called into the actual service, which means there has to be a vote. That there has to be a vote by the Congress. And I'm guessing Jeff's either lost power or is having technical difficulties on his end, because I'm all here by my lonesome right now, which is a scary thought. But when you run your own radio station, this sometimes happens. So we are working on getting the SoundCloud running for you guys. We know most of you like to listen via podcast. Let's see. You can also reach us on MeWe. We're on MeWe, and there's a group, and there's an actual Cerberus Radio Network page. There's also a Facebook group. Oh, are you back, Jeff? Are you there, Jeff?
I am here.
Okay.
That's terribly rudely cut off like that.
It gets very annoying, and I'm sitting here stammering, looking like a complete fool. I mean, most people think I'm a complete fool, but I don't like making myself look like a complete fool.
All right. So I asked, what does the Constitution say? You gotta, again, this thing matters. It really does. If this is what we're gonna have as our form of representative government, then this matters. So, what section are we in to find the answer to that question? We are in Article 1.
I'll pull it up for you here, Jeff. It's on your screen.
Yep. We're in Article 1, Section 8. Oh, what they have it? They have it by paragraph. Do they call it? What paragraph are they calling it there?
Section 8.
Let's see. So I don't see it there. All right, we'll go down to where it is. To provide for the calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrection, and repel invasions. Who has that power under the Constitution?
Only Congress, according to this.
Only Congress, according to the Constitution. And I'll put this up. I'll show you the front page of it. This is my handy dandy little pocket Constitution.
Oh, hold on. They can't.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. You had the words of the Constitution up there. That's fine. But it's my handy dandy little pocket Constitution. Can Trump send troops? Can he call up the militia, the National Guard? If we're gonna call it that, it's not truly the militia, but let's call it the militia. Can Trump call up the militia to repel an invasion? Well,
according to this,
it's technically not an invasion. They're not coming across with arms. They're not waging war. Technically, we can parse words here all night long. It's not technically invasion. It's not an army coming in here with tanks and guns and artillery killing people. So, no. Article 1, Section 8 specifically says that Congress calls up the militia.
Yeah, and then the next article says that Congress is the one that funds, arms, and disciplines the militia. And then when you get to Article 2, the only time the president can do anything is when called into service, and he can't be called into service unless Congress calls him.
He's commander-in-chief when they're called into the service of the United States. He doesn't call them in. He doesn't set the rules for them. Congress sets all of that up. The only thing the president does is executes what the Congress set up. So if Congress calls them up, says we're sending them to Texas to repel the invaders, you make it happen, Mr. President. Mr. Trump, make that happen. Then the president becomes commander-in-chief. He takes control. He puts his generals in charge. They march them down there, and they take care of the problem.
A good example.
The idea that we have an imperial president is the problem. The fact we have an imperial president. Go ahead, Daniel. I'm sorry, you interrupted.
I was going to say a good example of how it's supposed to work is Jefferson when he was dealing with the Mulberry Pirates. I think it's Mulberry. I'm probably saying that wrong.
It's in the Marine Corps hymn. I'll think of it.
Monte Cristo to
Barbary. The Barbary
in the Mediterranean Sea. Jefferson repeatedly went to Congress for authorization and then constantly updated Congress on what was going on. Jefferson never arbitrarily formed the Marines and sent them over to Libya to get our ships back and to take out the pirates. Now, once Congress gave him the permission, he sent the Marines over there and they kicked butt and brought all our stuff home.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to happen. But today, we have, again, like I said, we have an imperial president that runs an imperial empire. It sounds, this is starting to sound like a really bad episode of the Star Wars. I'm sorry.
9 hasn't been released yet, my friend. You might not want to go there yet. Yeah, we're just missing that. It's unlike me. I don't have the Vader music pulled up. Yeah. But it's very close to just, we're just going to have, we have Darth Trump rolling over, sending, I don't know, who would play his enforcer?
Well, we got John Bomb the World Bolton. I'm John Bolton. Let's bomb the world.
He's almost old enough that he needs a respirator to walk around. But anyway, he sent out his enforcer, Mr. Darth Bolton, to declare his will and to make it so. Now it sounds like Will Riker on Star Trek, yeah. But or no,
that's John Picard. Your Trekkiness is coming into question there, Daniel.
Yes. I deserve the slight from the sci-fi fans. That's Jean-Luc Picard, Mr. Captain Picard, saying "Make it so." It's not Will Riker. It's been a while since I watched Star Trek. I guess I need to up my sci-fi a little bit.
Oh goodness, that's a good way for us to end the little laughter about this whole thing, because I mean, if you didn't, we can't laugh about this. We are in deep trouble, and quite honestly, we are in deep trouble. I mean, read what find this article again. It's from the 10th Amendment Center, Constitution 101, War Powers, posted by Michael Meharry on July 7, 2014. Look it up. Or just look up that quote from Madison about the dangers of the standing army. We are in a deep trouble because of our standing army is sucking up over $1 trillion a year. We're already almost 22 trillion in debt alone.
Oh, declared
spend
not unfunded debt.
We spend more than the next 8 countries combined. So we're number 1 in the world for defense spending. Number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 have to all be added together to equal what we spend.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're still number 1, even if we cut all the debt off and take our spending back down to what we're supposedly bring in.
Well, we aren't going to, and I ask people this because you have all these warmongering people that we have 4 minutes. We have all these warmongers out there that chant USA, 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 kill them all over there before they get to come over here. Well, you know what? How much defense are we going to have here when it all collapses and there's no more money to spend on defense?
We won't have any.
Exactly. We'll have nothing. It's time to get the house in order here. Bring them home. We don't need them in Israel. Israel can defend themselves. We don't need them in Germany. Germany can defend themselves. We don't need them in England. They can defend themselves. France, they can, same thing. All over the world. Bring them home. It's time to take care of here.
If we would stop telling Israel to back off all the time, Israel probably would have quelled most of this problem to begin with.
So, anyway,
us telling them to back off.
Yeah, we have to get our house in order, or it's not going to make any difference. We won't be spending anything on defense. So, have a good night, Daniel. It was good having a show again for a change, even in spite of the technical difficulties and losing the video or losing the computer for about 5 minutes.
I only stammered around for about 5 minutes. There's your little comedy parody thing of me trying to scramble to find the Constitution, which I should have pulled up and saved under my bookmarks, but for some reason, I don't. But I found one. Anyway, make sure you check us out on SoundCloud. We are there. I will make sure that when this show's over that I go in there and I upload what I have and that that we're searchable and all that analytical stuff is in line, as much as a truck driver can do. And be sure to check us out on Facebook. You can check us out here on YouTube. Our previous shows will be there, or they'll be on SoundCloud now, because I believe we have unlimited storage on SoundCloud because we upgraded our service over there. So until next time, this is the Renegade signing off. Hope you have a good night. Stay safe. And until next time, good night.